In today's video, I'm going to do a deep dive analysis into the full swing technique of Ryan Fox here behind me. At the time of releasing this video, Ryan is fresh off a victory this past weekend on the PGA Tour, having won the Canadian Open in a playoff over Sam Burns. A playoff that, although it kept me wide awake until just past 1 a.m. Irish time, with the time difference, it was truly well worth staying up for to watch him close out the win in emphatic style. Now, in today's video, I'm going to show you why this action works well for Ryan, how he makes it functional, and perhaps why I wouldn't be too quick to recommend it to the everyday golfer. His move is quite timing reliant. You've got to have an awful lot of skill to be able to do this, and it is a technique that will be more inclined to work if you are strong as an ox, which he clearly is. If you watched the coverage this past weekend, it was well covered and documented his sporting background through his family and the genes that have been passed on to him from his dad, who was a star player in the New Zealand rugby team. And of course, needless to say, you don't get into that team or that squad unless you are an absolute unit, which he is, and it does help him pull off this move quite successfully time and time again. So let's get into it here. We can't see it all that clear from a down the line look, so I'm going to give you a face-on perspective here myself. You can see a little bit of it. He's got a lot of flair with that lead foot, dramatically more so than what he has of the trail foot. There's a little bit there, but nowhere near as much. As we put him into motion here, let's bring him to the point where his lead arm is level to the ground in the backswing. So about here. And what we start to see at this point here is, among a lot of good ball strikers, we will see more commonalities than differences quite often. And not that there is a one-size-fits-all swing on the PGA Tour by any means, of course not. However, in a lot of good ball strikers, we tend to see them have their lead arm much more in and across the body. We see them get that adduction of the lead arm across the chest, which can be quite a key power accumulator in the golf swing for a lot of players. He doesn't quite have that. His arm works very up and out at this point relative to a lot of guys. But that doesn't happen for the sake of it. There's a very specific reason why that is having to occur here. And that's in a reaction to what his lower body is doing by this point. We can see there's not much depth to his hip turn, evidenced more by the level of flex he's maintained in his trail knee. It's gotten a little bit straighter than what it would have been as he addressed the golf ball, but we can see there's no gap between the knees, which you would also see in a lot of players by this point in their swing. And as they change knee flex, that facilitates the hip turn to help transport the hands and the arms around the body, which of course he doesn't have that. So the only way he can then get length into a swing when this doesn't release is to hike and drive upwards with the arm. Let's play him on until top of the backswing here. And just before he changes direction, what we also see at this point here is, of course, the arm has just continued to go really upright because, again, not much change to the knee flex either by this point. That didn't change really. What we also notice by this point that is an interesting to look at series of combinations is his club face is still in what we would deem a strong position despite having some extension in his lead wrist. Now, for those not familiar with that term or what it means, think of it simply as his lead wrist, as he gets to the top of the backswing, his knuckles are more angling back towards the clock face on his watch. Now that is a move that it can tend to open the club face at the top of the backswing if he's in that position. The reason why it doesn't have the toe of the club hanging straight down into an open position is because of how he attached his hands to the club at the starting point. Again, just like the lead foot flare that we couldn't quite see from down the line, something else we couldn't see from down the line is just the nature of how extremely strong that his hands are, particularly his lead hands. And as anyone who's in a really strong position set up with their grip, they're building in, presetting a lot of extension here at this point. And then he's just transporting that to the top of his backswing. It's not a case of he was neutral at the start and then added the extension, which would have opened the club face. He was already really strong and just brought that to the top, hence why the club face is still on the strong side of things at this point in time. Now, from here, his lead arm is quite upright. If I was to give a golf lesson, and sometimes I will refer to a particular tour player swing, I've got a few that I've got in a bit of a catalog on my phone that I'll bring up as a bit of a reference of how to just make life easier for people out in the golf course. A player that, or a series of players that will make life easier by copying is players who have their lead arm working more on that of the shoulder plane at this point. And we can see that Ryan's arm is quite a ways above that. Now, because he's very upright with the arm structure, he has to now find a shallowing mechanism, because if he just turns and rotates from here, the shaft is going to be in a ridiculously steep pitch to it, and it's going to be in a very unplayable position. So he has to do something now to try and get that shaft working a bit more deeper in behind him as he comes down. And let's show you exactly how he does that. So let's bring him on until about lead arm level to the ground in the downswing. Right there. And what we see here, his way of trying to shallow out the shaft here, is that he has a great deal of side bends, and we can see the bent structure of his trail arm. So if I put that move on steroids just to show you from a face-on viewpoint here, he is trying to get this arm and club a little bit back behind him, and his way of doing that is that extreme level of side bend and that pitch of the right arm as he tucks that in and drives with it, gets the butt end of the club firing aggressively towards the target here. Again, I'm exaggerating here a bit with the action just so you can see it clearly on the camera. Let's play him on a little bit more into impact. And again, as we get just beyond the point of impact here, we can see that he still has quite a lot of flex in his trail arm. Let's play him on a little bit more in full flow now to the top of the swing. And as he extends up out of that extreme level of side bend that he had on the way down into the ball, he starts to get into a position that would be deemed a little bit more textbook at this point. So that's Ryan Fox's action all wrapped up. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've learned something from it. If you have enjoyed the video, please whack it a thumbs up, comment below any suggestions of what you'd like to see in future content, and subscribe to the channel to ensure you don't miss out on any future uploads. If you've liked my style of analyzing Ryan's swing and would like the same procedure done to your own swing, and furthermore, if by off chance you're not as happy as Ryan is with his ball strike, and if you would like some help, I can analyze your swing, and not only analyze it, but give you a clearly defined pathway as how you can progress it further to the point where you're going to smash your goals, whatever they may be on the course. To do that, you can take advantage of that service through the coaching app I use called Skillus, which helps me coach players all over the world. No matter where you are, this will be available to you. I will link it down in the description underneath this video for you to check it out. I look forward to hearing from you, hopefully very soon.